So, I read this one in like the couple of days that I was in Spain and Portugal, in between concerts and skinny dipping and God knows what else. Picking eggs from chickens. Salman Rushdie, Shalimar the Clown. Do you know much about Salman Rushdie? I assume you've heard of him.
I know I've heard of him. What has he done? That's
I think his most famous book was called Midnight's Children. I read it many years ago. I think I gave it away to PJ like 10 years ago because I didn't like it.
Oh.
I was like, I can't read this style. Now, I'm trying my best with different styles lately. Because if I were to compare this, I used to rate books on not to Dickens. You know, like this is not in that style. This is not in that 1800s style at all.
Of course.
So I would have hated it years ago.
Very modern, right?
Yeah. But I will say that I started out, I read the first maybe 50, 60 pages one day on a bus or something, and then I thought, I hate this. And I was really worried. But I actually really liked it in the end. The more I read, the more I liked. And the reason for that is the beginning and the end are kind of a framing device for the rest of the book, and I just didn't like that. But the actual book itself in the middle is really, really good. So I think I would have preferred if he just didn't have that kind of framing device. But if I exclude that and I just look at like the middle, 3/4 or 4/5 of the book, it gets its it gets that. Well, maybe the yow was a bit too enthusiastic. It wasn't that good.
Yeah. It's not Zola. Zola didn't even get that.
Yeah. So it's about 400 pages. In fact, exact 398. So it's 400 pages. It's cover. It's quite nice there. So you got a woman in like lovely kind of Indian dress, and then this guy as well. So Shalimar the Clown. Okay, the guy was able to do some kind of, I think it mentions at the beginning, he was able to do like a tightrope walk or some kind of acrobatics, so they call him that. This is not a book about a funny clown.
It's Pagliacci.
It's a really bad guy.
Oh, okay.
And an assassin by the end. But that's skipping ahead a little bit. So the framing device is about this girl called India, who is annoyed about her name because I think she's actually living in the States at that point, and she's got her father, Maximilian Offals, who's a Jewish chap. She's annoyed about her name because she's like, no one's called, Scotland. Why am I called India? Because I come from Indian heritage. Like that's,
I don't love it. Yeah.
I don't like it either. And of course, Salman Rushdie himself is Indian-born. According to Wikipedia, he's an Indian-born British-American novelist. So that's a lot of combinations there.
Okay. I'm an American-born Japanese UK podcaster. Like,
yeah, But, okay. If we take out the framing device, which is something like India wants to find out a bit about her past, okay, cool. Don't really care. But her dad is Max. The story I like is the story of, surprisingly, Shalimar the Clown. And that is most of it. So there's a girl called Bunyi, who I guess gets with Shalimar the Clown, and they get married. And they live in a little village. They live in Kashmir, in a small village. It's a fictional village. I had the name of it somewhere. Nope, it doesn't really matter, but basically, you get the impression these people are living like quite a standard, like rural, or lifestyle. At one point, they get a TV in the village, and it's like one TV in one tent, and the whole town like rushes in to like watch it together, and they just watch like some really boring show that's on, but they're loving it because it's so it's kind of that. Okay, Patchigam is the name of the town. So, there is a little bit about this love for, of course, the village and for Kashmir and India more overall. But, this will shock you now, Alex. The bit I like is the love stories and the interpersonal relations between the characters. We think that Shalimar the Clown's not a bad guy initially. But what happens is this American guy comes to visit and basically Bunyi dances for him, and he's like, well, you should just come back with me. And she does. So he's like, well, my wife is a whore, and my goal is now to kill her and this man. and he now devotes his life to that. And he ends up joining, like, 'cause it gets a lot into politics, okay? I mean, Max is Jewish, that plays into it. You've got the conflicts between India and Pakistan play into it, stuff happening in Kashmir. You've got even some, like, European stuff getting involved as well, like the World War II stuff almost. Like, it gets very political and covers a lot of issues, which I don't really want to delve too much into. But he signs up for some kind of like resistance force in Afghanistan or something, and off he goes to become a trained assassin. And he's really brutal. Like, they give him a test mission, and he just like massacres the guy, and they're like, "That was not what you were meant to do." But
just supposed to assassinate? Like,
I can't even remember if he was meant to. I think it was meant to be something really clean, you know, and he just butchers him or whatever. And they're like, "We're not meant to do that. You're really sick and twisted, but we do need guys like that on this force."
okay. You're too good at your job.
Kind of, yeah. It's a bit sad. Of course, he's motivated by cheating, but of course it's because there's this inherent sexism, and of course he thinks he owns the woman, and, you know, all this whole revenge stuff. Obviously, I'm not cool with any of that. That's really disgusting. Of course, you understand that he's hurt. You know, that's fine. But he takes things a little bit too far. The wife eventually returns. The wife returns to the village, and they say, "Well, this is a problem because you're dead. We took a vote, and you're officially dead. You don't exist in our records anymore."
How does that work?
I guess that's something they were able to do. And she says, "Well, who voted me dead? Who was the decision made by?"
Your wife.
And they say, "Well, your husband,
No.
your husband's father, and your father." And that's sad. That one hit her a little bit. And her mother's dead. So that hit her quite hard. Then it turns out, basically, Shalimar was going to go and find her and kill her. And the two fathers made some kind of deal with him, which was like, "You're not allowed to pursue vengeance while we're both alive." So they try to buy time. And in order to do that, they had to declare her already dead, so he wouldn't go and look for her. Some kind of agreement they made with each other.
Oh.
So while she's sleeping, like up in a tent, slightly off the village, because they won't actually let her back into the village, Shalimar will just come up and watch her in the night with a knife, being like, "Biding my time. Gonna kill her one day." And this is him for years, just obsessing. And she eventually is so sad and miserable, and then she goes a bit crazy, and she's like dancing with her mum's ghost and stuff. This is a little bit of magic realism as well.
Okay.
Which puts me off. It's not usually my thing, but it doesn't overdo it. I'm not going to spoil the ending. I'm not going to say, like, you know, does she die, does he die, does he kill her, or anything like that. I will mention that he does also go to the States and kill Max, the guy that took her away. Oh. I will give that spoiler. He pretends to be a chauffeur for a while and then kills him. But he wants to get close first and betray him. He can't even just kill him, you know, he's got to betray him. But I don't want to say he's a fun character, because he's a really, really bad dude. But it's an interesting
it's fun to follow
read.
Around. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting read. And I liked hearing a little bit more about the rural setting, and like the stuff I like is always like, well, let's see about the traditional life and how things will be and all this kind of stuff, you know. But also, I said that in the Zola, she should have known that if she married an artist who was going to do art, not to victim blame or anything, but Bunyi maybe also knew what he was like, because one of the things so when she first seduces him, he says, "Don't leave me now, or I'll never forgive you. I will have my revenge. I will kill you and any children you have by another man." And she says, "What a romantic you are. You say the sweetest things." So she knew what he was like. And apparently approved.
That sounds like sarcasm there, though.
That's not how I read it.
Sarcasm.
I honestly, I didn't read it that way. Maybe I should have, but I didn't read it that way. I don't want to delve too much into the political aspects, because it even gets into, like, there's a little side story about Max's family, a Jewish family during World War II, and that type of stuff, and how he used to try and help his parents escape. and everything, and they insist that they're going to stay running their printing press, and that's kind of a nice little side story. In that sense, the book's a little bit all over the place because it's like, oh, we're starting in like rural